FM, AM 1160. And it's time for another installment of Marshall Law, this radio program intended for informational purposes only. The information does not constitute legal advice. The law is constantly changing, and depending upon the information that is endemic to each of those cases, your particular legal problem, it depends upon its individual facts. Different jurisdictions have different laws and regulations. Because of those differences, you should not act or rely on any information in this segment without seeking the advice of a competent attorney licensed to practice law in your jurisdiction for your particular problem. He is Marshall Chriswell with us here this morning. How much in jeopardy did I put you by messing up the disclaimer? Are you good?
I think we're okay. Yeah. Good morning.
I want to talk about consumer law in general, lemon laws. A lot of people might want to start there. A product that they buy that doesn't perform up to their expectations or according to their interpretation of the warranty, and then you have prorated values of items and whether it's reasonable to expect that the item would still be performing as well as it should for them. Let's bat that issue around a little bit. When someone has a product that they feel has failed them in some way, what are their recourses legally?
Well, there are going to be several avenues that you could take in that situation. And one, as you mentioned, probably the most common is to look at the warranty. You know, you mentioned lemon laws, and particularly when you hear that term, you think about motor vehicles. Mm-hmm. Think about buying a car. Now, in Pennsylvania, in general, there's not a lemon law when you buy a used car. Okay, there's not an applicable law that says, okay, the car has to last for this many days or months or things. So the warranty becomes super important. You know, and reading the terms of the warranty and making sure that you know how long it lasts, whether it's mileage or the amount of time. Is it good for a number of months? And exactly what does it cover? That's the biggest thing is knowing, what the protections are in the warranty. And unfortunately, when you're talking about buying vehicles, particularly used cars, you're unless it's a certified car and you're getting a manufacturer's warranty, there are not a lot of protections there for consumers.
There's a lot of difference then between car dealers, isn't there? One car dealer might have something that appears to be very strong in terms of what they are saying about how they'll cover any problems with your car. One might just say, you're buying this car as it is, and take it for what you get.
I think that's true. I think that you want to look to reputable dealers and really go through the warranty in a lot of detail with the salesperson, and because that's going to be where your main protection lies. Now, in general, Pennsylvania does have some consumer law that would come into play there, and for other that is kind of all encompassing, not just vehicles, but it's called the Consumer Protection Law, and what it does is protects consumers in all sorts of transactions, whether it's purchasing goods or services. And it protects them from deception, essentially. Okay. So it's a Fraud Protection Act, and if you have someone who is, whether it's a home improvement contractor working on your house, whether it's a car salesman, or somebody selling you other goods or services, if they take steps to deceive you, to defraud you, if they have contracts that are deceptive or against the law, you can actually sue under the Consumer Protection Law depending on the amount of damages, financial damages you've suffered. You can sue them in magisterial district court or in the Court of Common Pleas, and obtain money damages for their actions, and also you can recover attorney's fees. And there's a provision in the law that if the actions were egregious enough, you can actually recover 3 times the amount of damages that you actually suffered.
Okay.
So very strong consumer protection law.
You talk about contractors, for instance, which is a big part of consumer protection, I would assume, in Pennsylvania. someone who is in the dark as to what was agreed upon, didn't bother to get it in writing, did something verbally and said, okay, you'll do this, okay, I'll pay you that. Obviously, you don't want that to be the way that people go about doing the business.
Sure.
But when someone has an issue with a contractor or with somebody else who has agreed to provide a service, what are the steps they need to take in order to protect themselves? I would assume a visit to an attorney is going to be a real clarifying factor.
Yeah, I mean, that's really should be your first step, is to have an attorney. If there was a written contract, let's get that contract reviewed prior to the contractor starting work. If you've kind of made a mistake and have an informal agreement and it goes south, get to an attorney. The Consumer Protection Law as well as the Home Improvement Contractor Act are both very strong in Pennsylvania. The Home Improvement Contractor law says that the contracts for home improvement have to be in writing. Contractors have to provide written contracts when you're dealing with residential customers, and they have to have terms in them, like what's the price going to be? Is it how is the total balance due going to be determined? Is this a flat fee job? Is it a time and materials contract? Also, how long is the job going to take? What's the estimated start and end date? The contract also has to provide whether the contractor has insurance. And in Pennsylvania, home improvement contractors are required to have insurance and required to register with the Attorney General's office. All of that has to be disclosed up front, and it has to be in a written contract. And if there's not a written contract, the contractor themselves can have a lot of trouble actually even collecting money that they're owed. They may not be due anything if they violated the law by not having a written contract. So either side, whether you're the contractor, whether you're the homeowner that's having the work done, if there's some sort of conflict arises, you want to get to an attorney because those laws are pretty intricate and really can provide you a lot of protection.
In your case, when a case comes up before you, somebody brings something to you and says, this is what I'm doing with this contractor. Here's the piece of paper he signed, the one I signed, and we had a witness, or we went to a notary, and therefore it should be binding.
Yeah.
You're going to tell them what?
Well, I mean, we're going to need to take a look at it and see if there's a valid contract. Okay, if it's a valid contract, if it's if the formalities have been complied with, has it been signed by both parties? Are all the material terms accurately stated, and does it comply with Pennsylvania law? And then hopefully you're coming to see me before you've signed that contract so that we can negotiate a couple of things if we need to do that.
Does the typical contract with a contractor, in this case, include repercussions should there be a failure to perform or perform in a timely manner? Any
good contract should include the remedies for a breach of contract by either party. Yes, and from the contractor's perspective, they're going to want to be able to collect, what they're owed, and from the homeowner's perspective, that they're going to want to be relieved of those responsibilities in the event that the contractor doesn't do what they're supposed to do in a certain amount of time. There are always going to be some flexibility built in. I mean, sometimes things come up, and a job was supposed to be done by June 30th, but it's got to be pushed back because maybe materials weren't available or some other good cause, and a good contract will have some flexibility built in, so that the parties can do what they need to do. But in the end, absolutely, if there is a breach of a material term of that contract, the contract itself needs to spell out, okay, here's what's going to happen, and either party is going to have the right to enforce that contract in court.
Yeah, and here we are. We're getting to home improvement season. It's really starting to really ramp up now, folks,
sure,
with outdoor projects. You certainly don't want to end up like the lady in Louisiana last week. The contract, she didn't pay her contractor for putting on a roof. He came and repossessed the roof when she was away. literally tore it off the building.
Okay.
And then it rained, and everything inside, and now he's facing criminal charges.
I'd say that the contractor might have a problem there.
I doubt it would get that extreme, but certainly an adversarial relationship can be avoided with your contractor if you go through the due process first.
Sure, yeah, you do, and you know, thinking about that situation from a contractor's perspective, you know, you have somebody who doesn't pay. You've done everything right, and someone doesn't pay. You know, here in Pennsylvania, there is a procedure for placing a mechanic's lien on someone's property, so that, you know, this is a lien on the real estate. They're not going to be able to sell it, refinance, do anything until you're paid off. So there's some protections both ways.
All right. So I would assume that you have had enough experience with folks in this situation that a visit is certainly called for. How do people get in touch with you to get this process started?
Stop by the Atrium building. Our office is here in downtown Indiana. Call me at 465-5826 or go online to westernpalawyer.com.
You know, the one thing I wanted to ask you, and we do have a minute, sidewalk repairs within a town. Mm-hmm. The sidewalk is actually something that is your responsibility, even though it's not your property, is the way I understand it. Somebody asked me this last week. When Marshall's in, ask him, do I have to get that sidewalk fixed? It's probably a good idea just to protect yourself legally.
From a liability standpoint, absolutely. Now, if it gets bad enough, can the municipality, the borough, or the township come and tell you that you've got to get it fixed? Yeah, they can. Mm-hmm. But from your own for your own protection, you know, you want to make sure that all the areas around your home are safe, because, you know, that's your homeowner's insurance that is going to be covering those things.
Yeah, I almost forgot to ask you that question. Yeah. Thanks, Marshall.
All right, thanks a lot. Take care.
Appreciate it. It is Indiana in the Morning, presented as always by First Commonwealth Bank, WCCS 101.1 FM and AM 1160.